John, 2 o'clock in Ennis, Waterford and Clare.
Yes, Stevie. I suppose it's really kicking off now the coming weekend. There are 2 big games on. First off at 2 o'clock in Ennis, Waterford up against Clare. Waterford on 3 points, Clare on 2 points after that. Just as we head into the second half of the championship, it could be a defining game, because a win for Waterford is going to put Clare under fierce pressure for the last round. You know what I mean? It will give a win for Waterford, give them 5 points, and really all to play for. Because they have Limerick to play in the last round. A defeat for Waterford down in Ennis, and it's going to put them under extreme pressure, because I don't think 3 points is going to be good enough for any team to finish in the top 3. Never mind getting into a Munster final. So.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if 3 points was enough. What do Michael McCarthy think?
Hi Stevie, yeah, I would agree. At this point, I don't think 3 points will qualify anyone. A win for Waterford at the weekend will probably put them into a Munster final. They'll be on 5 points going into that last game with Limerick. Interestingly, the 2 managers, Davy Fitz and Brian Lohan, probably don't like each other too much. But Brian Lohan has the head-to-head on Davy. Even when Davy was with Wexford, I think it's 5 wins to Lohan and none to Davy. So at some stage, Davy's going to have to break that duck, and I'd say he'd like to do it in no better place than Ennis at the weekend.
I have a funny feeling they could do it.
They could go very close to it. I think Waterford have played very well. They're setting up so much different to last year. They've such a threat inside with Desi Hutchinson. Stephen Bennett is playing some of the best hurling of his life at the moment, and Mikey Kiley is a real addition. He's an outball there for all the Waterford backs and midfielders. I think it has the makings of a great game at the weekend. I expect to see Tony Kelly back in a Clare jersey for the first time, starting for the first time this year, which will be a big boost to Clare. Ryan Taylor is rumoured to be back around the panel as well, so if he gets to tug out and play, that will be a huge boost to Clare too.
Francis Coughlan, what do Waterford first of all have to do if they're going to overcome Clare in this encounter?
They probably need to bring out the same aggression that we saw in the Cork game and at stages, I suppose, in the Tipperary game. I suppose looking at it, Davy probably needs 2 points to get through with Waterford, as Mike and John have said, to get on to 5 points. Which game does he target is probably the way you'll be thinking about it. And Limerick losing last week, there'll probably be a bit of hurt there, and they bought Limerick in the last game. So does he target this game and maybe go hell for leather at this game, and a chance of overturning, as Mike said there, eventually getting one over on Brian Lohan? I think that's probably what he's going to look at and really target this game, because when you look at it, they probably have their 2 toughest games, or perceived toughest games, within the space of 7 days of each other. So it's probably a case now at this stage of what he can target and hope he can get out of it. I think he will go for the Clare game to try and win it, and I suppose it'll be Waterford's first time coming out of the round robin as well, so there'll be a lot of hype and a lot of pressure on him. They probably have to improve, I think, a bit from the Tipperary game as well, and the fact that they probably did get a good bit of luck on the day, and maybe Tipperary were a little bit asleep at times as well, so. But as Mike said, the likes of Stephen Bennett, Mikey Kiley have really been performing. Desi Hutchison, who we've seen in the freeze this year as well.
And you can't give them an ounce of space, or an inch of space, I should say. You just cannot do that.
No, we saw the space was afforded there for the second goal against Tipperary. They're really well able to open up a side, and just we hadn't seen that last year with the system they were playing. I suppose maybe they're playing with a little bit more freedom this year as well, and Waterford were kind of noted for that as well. I suppose you go back the last 15-20 years, they always play with a little bit more freedom and abandonment, and it seems to suit them, and seems to suit their whole structure as well. And I suppose they'll have to hit Clare from the off, I think, to have any chance. I know Clare the last day in Ennis, they may be tired, or maybe they thought the job was done. It's hard to know which and ever, but I think they need to go at it from the off, like they did against Cork. They dictated it, and just kept those few points in front the whole time.
John?
Yeah, they scored 225 against Cork in the opening round, but I think actually Ennis is a huge playing surface. It's way bigger than Welsh Park. An awful lot of people think that Cusick Park is a tight pitch. It's not a tight pitch. The playing surface is probably one of the biggest in
It's a tight
Ireland.
ground, but not a tight pitch.
Correct, and it's the the crowd is out on top of you. But I think they'll use every inch of that Waterford to suit them, because the type of a game that they're playing, I think they like that, and they have played their 2 games at home. But I honestly don't believe that Welsh Park suits Waterford type of hurling, and it hasn't suited over the last number of years.
Mike McCarthy, would you agree or disagree with that? Because I think, John, you have a very valid point there.
I suppose so, but at the same time they took 3 points out of Walsh Park. So I'm sure if you had offered the Waterford people that before the start of the championship, they'd have snapped your hand off for it. I agree with what both lads said, that Waterford like to play with a lot of abandon, and that has been their trademark down through the years with John Milan, Ken McGrath, Tony Brown, and they have a lot of those players, those types of players in their squad at the moment. Jamie Barron has been exceptional around the middle of the field in the half forward line, but I think a big worry for Waterford might be the fitness of Prunty. He went off in the first half against Tip. They had to drop Mark Fitz back into the full back line.
He's a vital cog in that wheel, isn't he?
Conor Prunty is so strong and tight defender, and he's like a rash all over any full forward. And when he came back into that team along with Tadhg de Bourke, he gave them a spine that they could build on. And when he went off after 10 minutes against Tip, a lot of the time in a game, when you drop a player back, he can rise to the occasion. But when he has time to think about it, like I don't know whether Mark Fitz plays in the full back line for his club, but it's a big ask to be picked there in a championship game in the cauldron that'll be in us at the weekend. Because in fairness, Clare are fighting for their lives as well. If they lose on Sunday, they have to come to Thurles the following week and get a result to qualify. So it's a huge game for both counties.
Francis, there's a lot riding on this, isn't there?
Yeah, a huge, as Mike said, like, you could have a grandstand finish next Sunday in Semple Stadium, or the following Sunday in Semple Stadium between Tip and Clare, depending on where the results go. But I mean, Waterford probably will feel that they're slightly in the better position with 3 points got from their 2 games. Clare had that, as we said, that collapse against Limerick. They've only 2 points. It's a huge one for Clare, or for Waterford, to try and, I suppose, upset Brian Lohan again. And I think Limerick managed to do that a bit as well. That Clare didn't really seem to know what was happening in the last 20 odd minutes below in Ennis the last day, and they're back in Ennis again now on Sunday, which they've probably got to try and put right as well, and as well as get 2 more points on the board, because when you look at it, they look to be home and dry against Limerick that day, and then we all know what happened. Waterford, on the other hand, are probably with that little bit more form, but as we said, they've the 2 tougher games, perceived tougher games left. So there's a huge lot on it, and I suppose for Waterford in general, I suppose there was an awful lot of talk at the start of before the Cork match that there was no one showing up to matches, there was no one going to tickets or that, or no one planning to show. And morale was probably low after the league as well, and what we've seen from him has been huge, and it's been a real turnaround. So I suppose they want to build on that on Sunday as well. Brian Lohan wants to build on the Cork result. I mean, there was times in the Cork game that Cork looked to be in control. I think they were 7 points up at one stage, and that Clare managed to come back and get 2-point win out of it. So it's also the factor, I suppose, there's the secondary factor, if you want to call it, as Mike said, Davy versus Brian as well. So there's a huge bragging rights.
Do you think that will have a factor?
It probably will have a factor, I suppose, more so for the media than the 2 teams.
But do you think it's blown out of all proportions then?
Possibly, alright, but look, we all know the history between them. Like, I'm sure Brian Lohan and Davy Fitz won't be talking too much about each other in their respective dressing rooms. Like, they have a job to do. Waterford are coming into it unbeaten, something they haven't done since the round robin started, going into a 3rd game unbeaten. But they do go to Ennis, and I think it's Brian Lohan will be key to get something out of it.
John, matchups.
I don't know, Stevie, about what particular matchups is there, because both teams will have to go as like what they done against Cork in the opening round, and hit 225, and what did they hit against Tipperary the last day? A big score again. Well, I think they have to go all out on Sunday in Ennis, because I don't think Waterford will beat Limerick in the last round. So if Waterford have to go through, they have to get at least a point in Ennis on Sunday. Prunty, as one of the lads said there, is going to be a huge loss if he doesn't line out. Tyke de Borker's going well, but the forwards really, they are getting their scores. And you know, Hutchinson now, actually the last day he missed a few frees early on. He drove a couple, I think he hit probably 2 or 3 bad wides in the first half. So I mean, it was really as the game went on that he came more into it. Now I know he got the opening point there just straight after the goal, like, but then he sort of he wasn't as influential, put it this way, early on. But as the game progressed, he got back into it, you know. And Bennett, your man Jack Prendergast, like, I don't think they'll be going out much for, you know, man marking and all this stuff, because I think this year there's an awful lot of in all the games we have seen, I think there's an awful lot of direct hurling be times in it, you know. There's an awful lot of long balls coming out of defence in and top of the forwards there, and the likes of Kiley is capable of winning high ball and winning dirty ball, and they are going to use that. Now the penalty that they got, we'll say in their first attack against Tip, now okay, the penalty was given. It was for a foul on Kiley. Whether it was a penalty or not, it depends who you're talking to. But something like that. But I think they'll throw everything at Clare early on in the game and see how it goes after that. Because I think they just have to
call it.
Do you know what? I'm going to be the devil's advocate and I'm going to go for Waterford.
Michael?
I think Stevie, Mark Rogers will have a big bearing on this game. He scored 1-4 the last day off Kieran Joyce against Cork. And I think Tyke de Borka is a guy that likes to sit back in that half back line, and Rogers is somebody who exploits pace and is having a very good year. I think he could be a good tip for man of the match, and I think Clare will win.
Francis?
Yeah, I think Clare as well. I did have an inkling towards Waterford maybe at one stage, but I think Clare, I think just to get their momentum back up again, I think they'll sneak it in Cusick Park.
Okay, Francis, while I'm with you, I'm going to say with you, Tip and Cork, 4 p.m, Simple Stadium. Yeah,
it's a huge game now, and tickets have gone through the roof since Cork's win over Limerick on Saturday night last. It's a huge game for Tipperary. I suppose the Limerick game looked to me to be a non-event. We never really hurled at all. We came back with a lot more endeavour, I think, against Waterford, but still there's a lot of talking points, you know, where the forward line is still not fully clicking the way we probably hoped or expected it would at this stage. And right, we did score 127. We were lax at times as well. I still think we were probably 6 to 7 points better than Waterford if you take out the decisions. But look, the decisions were given on the day.
But you're going to get those day in, day out, so you have to move on from those.
Well, you are, yeah, and I suppose that's one thing Tipperary will have to learn from. I mean, the second goal was a case in point, like the space that opened up down along the stand side going down. You know, we can't fall asleep like that again. It was the same with the free that was given, 21-yard free for the third goal. You know, we didn't mark up in it for the short free, like, and we got caught. So we have to be far more alert, I think, on Sunday starting off. We've also got to come up, I think, with a plan that's more Tipperary, in my view. We saw what Cork did the other night against Limerick. They came out with their own plan of being able to go along, win their own ball. I think we need to see more of that from Tipperary, and a bit like Waterford, I think we need a little bit more freedom and abandonment in the team as well. We need to get the likes of Jake Morris and that, I think, far more into a game. He hasn't been himself as of late. Gerard O'Connor hasn't shown as much form as he showed earlier in the year in the league and the Fitzgibbon Cup, and we need to get more out of players like that. And I suppose the one thing you notice about Cahill's teams, and especially at the start of the championship last year, the goals, right, some of them were a bit lucky against Clare, but the goals seem to have dried up somewhat after that. Like, obviously with the exception of the Offaly match was a non-runner in my view. I think we need to get back to something like that as well, like that. We're not just dependent on points the whole time. We need to be getting goals.
Michael?
Yeah, Stevie, I think the form of our forwards is probably something that Tipperary people would be worried about. Our top scorer is Jason Ford on 12 points after 2 games, you know, and it probably doesn't make for good reading. Next is Mark Keogh on 6. Kyo, I suppose, is a bit of an enigma. He needs to repeat that form now this weekend, and I think one of the things he would have been critical with Mark would be his consistency. So he was one of our better performers the last day, but he needs to produce again on Sunday. Jake Morris and Jason Ford, as Francis said, their form just hasn't been where it was, I suppose, for Jake during the league, and I think Jason has probably been struggling a bit during this year. So I think if you watch Cork last weekend against Limerick, they kept the three in the full forward line inside the 21, and I think that is something that would benefit Tip with Morris, Kyo and Ford, because they are serious stickmen. But if they got good ball in with space in front of them, they could cause damage. But form is something that they need to find.
John, our full forward line, they need to be on song now.
Yeah, they do, and I agree 100% with what Michael said there. They have to stay in there. There was times, I think, the last day, and there was one man in the full forward line. That's not going to get anything for us. Like, as I said, Cork did come with their own game plan. They took the game to Limerick, but Cork had players that are capable of winning dirty ball, and they did do it, and especially that goal that they led up to when Harnedy caught the ball in the air and he laid it off. I don't think we have the players of that calibre that will win those type of balls, Stevie, but we certainly do need the forwards to up their game, because it will depend a lot on that. Now the other side of the coin is, if you take Cork have scored on average in their 3 games so far, they've scored 327 they've scored, and they've conceded 328 in their games. Now I can't see, I know games will take they take a mind of their own there, but I can't see Tip getting anywhere near that, and I think they have to. But if it comes to a shootout, I think Cork will win that game. But if it comes a dogged affair in their faces, I think Tip have a right good chance. But an open game of hurling, and I think Cork will prevail, because the idea is, anyway, one of those teams are gone at 20-6 on Sunday evening. Let's hope it's not Tipperary.
Michael, defensively, we need to be super tight.
We certainly do, Stevie, and I think the return of Cathal Barrett put a different shape on the tip backs the last day, and probably the positioning of Ronan Maher into the half back line. But certainly Cathal Barrett brought an aggression that wasn't there against Limerick to that back line, and I think the rest of the guys responded to it. Craig Morgan, Michael Breen had one of his best days in a Tip jersey, and Ronan played a real captain's part at centre back. I suppose.
Can we repeat that kind of performance?
Well, they have to, and I think Tip have to. We have to come with that aggression again from the very start. One thing that I would be worried about is pace in our half back line. Conor Bowe is probably the paciest of the three backs, and I probably think that Ronan will sit a little. But
Ronan normally holds back, don't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he sits back on the edge of the D there, and is very, very good at playing that role. But that would leave Barrett free in the half forward line, and he went to town on Limerick last Saturday night, especially in the first half. Declan Hannon had no answer to him. So I think you might see Conor Bowe coming in to pick up Barrett, because he would have the pace for him. The other side of that it might move Garrod O'Connor out on Coleman, and Mark Coleman is a guy that likes to get forward, and he could cause damage on the wing, because Garrod O'Connor defensively doesn't seem to be as good at tracking back.
Francis, what kind of a team are we expecting Liam Cahill to pick?
I don't think there's going to be too many changes, to be honest. There probably is a better feel about the team than we had going into the Waterford match. I would stick with Dara Stakelum, to be quite honest. I know he looked light in that at times, but I thought he grew into the game as the game went on, and I think he's worth persisting with. Probably the big issue is going to be the free taker, and will Garrod O'Connor and Jason Ford both start, and who's going to go on the frees? I think that's going to be one of the main issues, because you saw the last day, you saw against Limerick, the missing of frees is really putting us under pressure. You've got to be able to take all those chances. And I suppose maybe midfield and that as well. I thought midfield gave it everything the last day, to be fair. I thought Owen Connolly had a great game in there. Conor Stakelum is back fit. He was on the bench last day, but he didn't come on, so it'll be interesting to see come on. I suppose Noel McGrath will probably start again, you'd imagine. he definitely did well. I thought the last day, to be fair, he definitely dictated a lot, but at the same time, a lot of the younger players, the likes of Mark Keogh again, is going to have to back up that performance. We're going to need to see an awful lot more out of our forwards, but it's probably going to come from defence as well, how we play back there, and we can't be coughing up soft goals either against Stevie.
John?
Yeah, look at Stevie. To put two for back-to-back performances, that has been Tip's problem there over the last couple of years. Individual performances, they're not coming up with, with back-to-back top performances, and I think we need to get that on Sunday. And if we don't, I think we are in trouble, because especially I think the Cork forwards will be probably, Mike said it there, I think, about that Cork half forward line. There's a bit of pace in it. Like Cork against Limerick last Sunday, threw everything at Limerick, and they always seem to have this extra man in the forwards, and they missed a couple of goals as well in the opening half. We must remember that they created goal chances, and in my opinion, they should have put away two more goals in the first half against Limerick. Now, and I think myself that unless Tip come with a way bigger performance than against Waterford, I think they're going to be in trouble on Sunday.
Okay, Mike, the team itself, it's going to be very hard for Liam Cahill now to sit down and pick his team, or do you think it's going to be easy?
I think it'll be easy enough. I don't expect that there'll be any change from the starting 15 that started against Waterford, not the named 15, the starting 15. I suppose the only question you'd have is over Jason Ford. He was taken off in the second half after a bad wide. He had a poor day, as Francis said, on the freeze. I wouldn't be surprised if Garrod O'Connor starts on the freeze at the weekend. That would be the only change maybe, but who comes in for him? Conor Stakelin would be my choice to come in at wing forward if that is the change. I don't think he will change it, but I do think we'll see Jason inside the full forward line.
Okay, gentlemen, the weather is not so good here, and it's not in favour of us here in Cashel this evening, but all I can say is thank you all for joining me here this evening.
Thanks very much, Stevie.